Awareness is the name of the game. How many of you are actually aware of what's going on around you? From day in and day out, how many of you have blinders on that are so tight that you don't see anything else around you? Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Wire Fire Factor. With you as always, your host Matt Wireman, and today I got a great one for you. We're going to tap into the world of awareness. I want to share an amazing story with you just about awareness and how quick it can happen, and hopefully you can learn something from it and then apply it in your life. Before we get started though, as always, let's get baby warmed up. That's energy, that's life. We're bringing it to life. So let's get started, guys. So I want to tell you a story about awareness. I think many times in our life, we just kind of get trapped and we just kind of go with the flow. And when we go with the flow, we don't actually know what's going on around us. We're kind of trapped in our own heads. We're trapped in our own situation. Well, the only way to get out of it is to be aware of what's going on around you. The only way to find freedom from what's holding you down is to have perspective. So the story of awareness just shows you sometimes how life is always moving, whether you want it to or not, or whether you're aware of it. So my wife and my brother and sister-in-law and sister-in-law wanted to go on a trip. We had an adult trip. Now, we've had all kids. Life was moving pretty quick, so we never really got away. We never really had that adult away trip from our kids. So we found babysitters and we said, you know what, we're gonna fly south. So we had it all set up. We were gonna fly out of Dayton, Ohio. And from there, it was just a quick flight, about an hour and a half. And we wanted to just get away. It was a 3-day deal. We were gonna enjoy the moment, ride the ride, go to the ocean, do some great things. Well, things got crazy, right? We were celebrating. It was a cold day. As mentioned, we live here in Ohio. It was April, it was snowing, it was miserable. So it was perfect time to just get away. Well, as we were going down I-75, down the highway, I was driving and I started to notice the headlights seemed to be oddly facing us. So it was up a ways, couldn't really tell what was going on. It was pouring down rain. And sure enough, there was a car facing us with the headlights on. So as we get closer to it, we realized that a car had hit the sidewall, spun out, and then was actually facing us. So traffic must have just happened because traffic wasn't really backed up. So naturally, when I said when you have gifts, you have to learn to use them. You have to understand when to apply them. You don't get time to think and react. So naturally, park the car, my brother-in-law and I, we jump out, we go over to see what's going on. So I start looking at traffic because every video, all I could think about is cars just flying into the back of it and just creating a massive pileup. So I said, I'll get this in. My brother-in-law went to check on the lady that was in the SUV actually. So we went over there and the airbags were deployed and she was outside of the vehicle and he was checking on her. She said she was okay. My brother-in-law wasn't sure. Was her kids trapped inside? We really didn't know what was going on. There was a lot of panic. And she had actually dropped a cigarette down on the floor, and he said it felt like it was a Bruce Willis Die Hard movie, like the cigarette was just going to explode the car, the way she was like, she's like, I gotta get it, you know, and we're just trying to make sure she was okay. Did she have any injuries? About that time, a nurse had actually pulled up and was trying to help us and assist. Well, I'm back there, you know, trying to flag down cars doing 60, 70 mile an hour on the highway. So after things kind of settled down, they called the squad, everything was coming. We said, okay, we got to take off. We got a flight to take. We took this vacation. We are not going to miss this. So once all that was clear, we said, wow, that was interesting. So we get down to the airport, you know, and you're always going to go through TSA. And my sister-in-law, she really didn't have much exposure with kids and just family and around this town. She really didn't go too far. So this was really going out of her element to take a trip and to fly away. So, you know, to leave that part of it or that comfort zone, it was a little new for her. So as we were getting into the airport side, you got TSA, right? You're going to get checked. You're going to do all these things. It's like, oh, your heart rate, you know, we just got to pass this. We just got to get through this. And, you know, we made it through there and we said, all right, let's just stop. They had a restaurant there and we were trying to look for it. And we wanted to say, let's go have a drink. Let's have a good time. Let's start this trip off right. So as we went down the terminal, we started to look. All right, the airport wasn't very large and we wasn't sure which way to go. And we happened to see this lady. So she came down the stairs and it was very odd, right? It just felt odd. It felt out of place. And she had just this look of this demeanor about her. So as she came down, you know, we were just excited. We were like, hey, do you know where the restaurant is? And she said, yeah, it's this way, and just got really friendly. Well, somehow she kind of attached to my sister-in-law and got really comfortable, you know. And for me, again, when I'm talking about awareness, it's just quickly recognizing that, okay, this is an extroverted person, but then the things she was saying just really attached on. And if you really start paying attention to some of the things that were being said, you start to realize like it doesn't make sense. My sister-in-law, again, just kind of being out there, she was excited, like was just going with the flow. Well, she was kind of asking questions about where we were going, what we were doing. And again, all we were doing is making a trip back down the corridor so that we could go to the restaurant. Well, as we were doing this, she started to say that she was from Dayton. She wasn't. I mean, we had a whole life story literally in like 5 minutes. So automatically I said, like my guard went up, right? This is that kind of sixth sense that you have to rely on. And I said, like no more. And she didn't understand, right? I didn't want to be rude or disrespectful or any of those things. So, my sister-in-law was just kind of going with the flow. And we said, okay, we kind of can't really shake her. And we walked down there. Well, we get to the restaurant. And I, again, just felt uncomfortable. Like, man, that was just really odd. It was really aggressive for not knowing someone. So stay with me. This story gets nuts. Make it all the way to the end. You're not going to believe what happens. A lot of details in the way. This story is just beginning. This is part one of about 4 or 5 more things that went absolutely crazy on this quick trip. So we're sitting in the restaurant, we're at the bar and we're just having a good time and sitting there. Well, this lady is sitting beside my sister-in-law. Now, I'll just tell you, she had red hair, so we gave her the nickname Old Red, right? Old Red just kind of got it started for us, gave us a way to just associate. Well, as we were doing this, again, she was just asking questions to my sister-in-law. We were kind of lined up, so we couldn't really tell what was going on. And again, your guard's up, but you're like, come on, you don't want to think more of it. You don't want to read into something and ruin a good time just because, you don't trust people or something came of it that you just didn't understand. But again, I kind of just kept my guard up just to keep an eye. Well, out of it, she had asked my sister-in-law if she wanted to go to the restroom. And my sister-in-law said, no, I don't really need to. It's like, just playing it off like I didn't know what that meant. Well, she then a little bit later asked and see if she wanted to have, it was like a Mentos type of candy, to save for her breath or something. We don't know, right? It's like, okay, now what's going on? That's odd. Offer a complete stranger candy or whatever it is, gum or whatever she had in there. So then a little bit later, she then said, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Do you want to go with me? At that time, my sister-in-law smoked, and she said, well, hey, let's go have a cigarette. And the guy said, well, you actually have to go outside of TSA in order to do that. And we're like, no, like, we're not going anywhere. Well, she got offended by that we weren't, my sister-in-law was not going to go with her. So again, we're trying not to be rude here. So eventually she kind of gives her the cold shoulder. Some other gentleman walks up. She has a complete conversation with him. So we're thinking, all right, man, is she just on something? And just, she's not aware of her surroundings. So we kind of just let it go and it died down. A little bit later, she said, hey, I'm going to go to the restroom. Can you watch my luggage? And I said, absolutely not, right? Like, no, we are done with this. Please remove yourself from us. Like I said, I don't know what you're doing or what you're on or what's happening, but you need to stop and leave us alone. So that was kind of odd. And as we were trying to just, again, enjoy it, I just couldn't let go of that eerie feeling that there was just something more to it. Now, as we're leading into this, it kind of felt like it was a trap, right? There was something else behind it. Was there somebody else involved? Was there a few people involved? Next thing you know, everybody's suspect because we don't know what's going on. And this lady was just being really aggressive, looked pretty rough, just didn't seem, you're in an airport, number one, and number two, complete strangers. You don't make that kind of approach. The idea is to stay to yourself, right? Stay clean, get through the airport, get your flight, and then move on. There would be no reason to have conversation and become that aggressive in an airport like that. So anyway, a little bit later, we go up, and when we go up to we're waiting on the airplane to take off, we go and you just kind of watch. You're like, man, I want to just see what this lady does. I want to just see where she goes. What is she doing? Like, is there some more to this, or am I really overthinking it? Because at this part, I'm high level. Like, again, not comfortable with it. So Old Red comes up, and no joke, I tell you, she gets there, and there's a lady that has a small dog, runs into her, and they know each other. So again, this is 9 o'clock at night. It's a small airport. So again, the chances of running into somebody that you know, I mean, they were like old friends. Okay, could happen. Again, another coincidence, or we just overthinking this. So we go up there, and she's sitting there, and the lady, so we're here, and across the corridor is the lady with the dog, and she has a dog bag, a carry-on bag. And the lady, like, they're together, Old Red and this lady, they're just hanging out. She's over there. Well, the lady with the dog then sits down, she's got her knee, and she's going through her bag. I'm telling you, for 20 minutes, going through her bag, taking everything out, putting it back, rearranging. She took her coat off, put her coat back on. You're just like, are these two just whacked out people that are just living in a different world and we're just watching this, or something really going on? Okay, so you're kind of watching that and you're like, okay, what's going to happen next? So meanwhile, over to our right, there's a guy, too cool, too calm, right? And he is slouched back and he's real comfortable in this chair and he's just watching everything. And he's on his phone, right? So he's just sitting there and I don't even know that he's on the phone with anybody. Again, become suspect number 3 now. Watching him, he doesn't react to anything. And you could just see there's a lot of commotion, way too much commotion for 9 o'clock at night with a small airplane flight. So a little bit later then, just kind of keep an eye on him. I'm telling you, at this point, I'm watching everybody. So the lady then, the old red, goes and she walks all towards like where you would check in. Well, a little bit later, she's walking back with this younger girl in a tie-dye shirt, and they're just talking and getting along and headed towards the bathroom. Now, automatically, right? Like, I'm one that's going to jump up and I'm going to say something, not to make a scene, but just for the fact, like in my mind, if I'm like, should I have done something? Well, I'm going to do it. At least feel better, like, hey, at least I tried. And I said, hey, and I just yelled across. I mean, that was a little bit of a distance, and I said, watch your back. And this lady just looked at me, this younger girl. And I said, something's not right. All I'm saying is just watch your back. You know, obviously she was confused. And I'm not even sure why I said it or reacted, but that just felt right at the moment. So they go in the bathroom and I bet you can hear her talking out of the bathroom. So for 10 minutes, just in the bathroom. And I'm just like, man, this is out of control. So one, thinking, okay, maybe this isn't some kind of kidnapping situation like you see in the movies. Maybe I've seen too many, but you're wondering, like, is she just all hyped up? Like, is something going to happen out of this because she doesn't know where she is or what's happening? So she comes back and the tie-dye, like they kind of split again, and she goes over with the lady with the dog and they're right back at it. And sure enough, that lady's digging through her stuff again. And it's like, I think I'm in a movie. We're like, anyway, my family, sister-in-law, my wife, and them, they're all just trying to enjoy the trip, but I'm sitting there with high guard on. And a little bit later, the tie-dye lady comes back and I walk over to her and I said, hey, I said, I'm not trying to get in your business. I'm just telling you to put your guard up. There's a lot of weird things happening right now. So again, she doesn't understand, so she's not a part of it, like doesn't know what's happening. And it's like, okay, are you another suspect? She just seemed too calm. It just seemed like, you know, it was normal for some random person to come up to her, create conversation, and then walk around with her in that corridor there. It just, again, you don't see that in the airports plenty of times. So I'm like, okay, I don't like this at all. So I said, I'm gonna at least say something. So I go up to the TSA lady and I said, hey, I said, I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm just, again, making you aware. I said, you see the lady over here, she had a green jacket on. I said, and she, at this point, she's like pacing. And I said, I'm just telling you, there's some weird activity going on. Can you just either send somebody down or just be aware of it? I'm just doing my part. You know, see something, say something. So she kind of looked and she said, who are you talking about? And I'm like, in the green jacket, like right there, like you couldn't miss her. And I'm like, oh man, do we have another suspect? I just felt like she was completely playing it off. And I said, all right, you know, I just got to trust this. This is probably getting overthinking this. So I go back, you know, we're still waiting. You have to wait a long time for your plane. And next thing you know, there's this other guy, you know, he's probably more our age or whatever, pacing back and forth. So, you know, you have this side of the corridor, this side of the corridor, and you have your main one down the middle. Well, we were the only late flight. So it was a small flight, again, that night, 9 o'clock at night. And this guy's like pacing back and forth on his phone. He's just talking back and forth. And again, why would you just be a center of attention in an airport, again with TSA and plenty of other passengers? You typically just stick to yourself, right? There's plenty of people that wander around or whatever it was. But again, I'm like, is this guy in the loop? Now, we're taking awareness to the whole next level. And I'm not sure if it's good or bad at this point, but so we're watching him, and the crazy part out of all of this is that Old Red and the lady with the dog start talking to that guy. And I'm like, do they not care who's who, and they'll talk to anybody, right? So that's not a crazy thing. People will do that. So again, we got another suspect on the list. So we're just watching. So we go to get on the plane, and I asked the lady, I said, the TSA lady came down, and I don't know if it was just for the boarding of the flight or what it was, and I said, did you get my message about just being aware of this lady in the green jacket? And she said, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, well, I asked and reported something earlier, and I said, I just wanted to make sure. And she says, still don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to get on the plane and just see where this goes. So, you get on the plane, and I'm sitting there, and sure enough, old Red, she's sitting a little bit further up in front of us. And I don't know, she's got to be uncomfortable because I was staring a hole in her soul, and I was not going to let go. Again, just not knowing. I know that sometimes these things happen. It's real. It's not like we're oblivious that, some type of scenario where they just try to set you up and then just try to distract you couldn't happen. That's insane for you to think that it couldn't. Now, the likelihood, probably not. But again, this episode is about being aware. And as I share this story with you, I'm not asking you to overthink it and read into everything, but be aware. Be aware of who you are, what you're confident in, what you're seeing, and what that instinct and what that gut check is telling you. It's important because not only where you have to try to figure out what you're doing with your life and where you're going to go with it, you got to figure out how to survive off of that gut check. Fast forward, she's on the plane, and this lady gets up. I bet she goes to the bathroom 3 or 4 times, right? We're in the back of the plane, so she's going back and forth, and I'm just like, man, I don't like it. Before the flight lands, she's singing, she's dancing, she's got others all in it. Like, it's all over the place, and I'm just like, this ain't normal. I said, again, she's on something, that's fine, whatever. But you're on a plane. There ain't too much far you can go with this before it gets ugly. So the weird part is when we got done, we were waiting, right? And everybody jumps up to get on the plane when you're landing, you're waiting for them to get hooked up and everything to happen. And she was doing this weird toe tap dance, almost like it was a foot in, foot out, tap, foot, and it was the same pattern, just repeating. I'm like, okay, again, don't understand. Let it go. Maybe it's just, again, we'll move on. We landed in Florida. It was great. We were ready. We got there at midnight. It was like, okay, let's go. Let's get all jacked up. We only got 3 days to go. So we get down there, and right when you come out, there's nobody in this airport. It is dead. So we come out of the terminal, and there's some chairs. She's sitting right there on a pen and pad and just writing notes of something. And it's like, why are you here? Get off the plane. Go do something. Go somewhere. Obviously, what is everybody else doing? Chucking it. They're jetting there, either get their rental car or whoever's picking them up. So my sister-in-law and them go to the bathroom, and I said, I'm not taking my eyes off of this. So sure enough, when my sister-in-law and them come out, this lady starts to go in, and we just stare her down and said, do you have a problem? Like, whatever's going on, this is just nuts. You have to really be aggressive in these situations just because you don't know. But at the same time, you got to be respectful. Just because in case it isn't anything. But looking back, we got through there, and then we ended up doing the trip, didn't see anything, nothing else happened. We had the flight back, and I got back and I just said, man, that doesn't feel right. And then what if it would have been something? So I put a 5-page picture letter together. We had pictures and everything, and I submitted it to TSA and just said, listen, you do what you want to do with it. I'd let you investigate it. But, it was heavy. It clearly made me uncomfortable, and I hadn't felt that way in any other airport. The message of this story is just kind of share a crazy story that happens right in real life, and maybe went a little over the top, but I encourage you to be aware. Be aware of who you are. Be aware of your surroundings, especially when you're knee deep in something and when the fire is burning hot and you can't get out of it. Just be aware. Try that self-awareness. And when you meditate or when you really think, get again out of your own head, gather your thoughts. Continue to put a plan together, and the more that you can objectively take yourself out of it and be aware of what's happening, the pointless conversations you're in, or the situations that you keep finding yourself in might be from your decisions. It might be from your overreaction. It also might be from you just not being aware and someone's trapping you or putting you in a bad spot, uncomfortable spot, and you just can't get out of it. Be aware. Continue to light your own fire and be who you were called to be. I'm proud of you guys. Keep working, keep following. We got a lot more to go.